If there's anything that I've learned with women, it's that we need to make sure as men that they have nothing over us when we are dealing with them. And that means that you have to have the ability to walk away at all times. And to be honest, once you get to a certain point in your internal maturation, you're going to not really give a flying about whether or not the woman stays or goes, really. Because at one point, you're going to be able to say to her, if she starts to act crazy or weird or whatever, it's like, well, I must be conflicting with your life in a way that doesn't allow you to promote you to live your best life. Well, the door's right over there, ma'am. And you can just say that and it'll be really easy. And she'll either shape up or she'll just leave. And if you can get to that point as a man internally where you are really okay, it's not going to be a problem for you. Now, I've been looking through the comments here over the past few videos, and something that I've noticed on one in particular was a certain critique on why I have these Western talking points on talking about women and why we as men need to focus more on ourselves. And look, I completely agree with the comment. However, so many men are fixated on women, and so many men are fixated on how to deal with women that I think it needs to be talked about to one degree or another. A lot of people, men specifically, of course, because we're talking about heterosexual relationships, a lot of men put women on pedestals and they probably don't even know it a lot of the times. They don't realize that sometimes it takes a lot of courage to tell the woman that they've pedestalized in their head no. And a lot of these women out here have never been told no. I've had one woman tell me that I was the first person that has ever told, I was the first man specifically that had ever told her no. That's crazy. That's insane. That just goes to show. And she was like 23, 20, 24. So the fact that she got to live 23 years of her life without ever being told no by a man, that's, well, of course she's going to have some kind of sense of entitlement to some degree or another. Now, all women are not like this, of course. I'm just talking about modern women specifically. And I also, in this video, want to touch on a couple different things on why we as men need to stop looking for a wife. And honestly, I think as a woman, you should stop looking for a husband as well. Focus on yourself. So many people are fixated on the external that they don't know how to focus on themselves. And the only way to make sure that someone doesn't have anything over you is to be able to focus on yourself 100%. And men specifically must have the leverage in the relationships. And a lot of the times, if you're a young man between the ages of like 18 to 24 watching this video, put your head down and go to work. That's my best advice. I wouldn't even worry about females at that time unless you're already in a relationship or something. Don't even worry. Don't even stress about it. Just build yourself up. I know it can suck. I know it can seem like, you want to have these kind of experiences, but in all honesty, once you get to be 24 and 25 and you've actually put in some work on yourself, you've maybe got a degree or you went to trade school or you've got certain kind of experiences in business here and there or whatever, you're going to be able to get to the point to where you actually have something to leverage with. And me at 27, realizing this now, I mean, now that I have women approaching me, it's given me a completely different perspective of what it's like just as a man specifically. because the women will flock to you. And believe me, so they started approaching me. The first time I was approached by a woman specifically, because I was nearly 200 pounds. I didn't have a woman look my way 3 years ago. And when I was 200 pounds, a fat motherfucker, I didn't want to, like, I wanted all of this stuff, but now it's to the point to where it's almost like a day-to-day occurrence. If I go out, I'm going to get choosing signals. I'm going to get certain things. And yeah, I like it to some degree, of course, but at the same time, it can get kind of old and annoying, and it's more of a distraction than anything else. And this is actually a sign that you're on the right path. And this is something that I've learned recently, is that God wants to know whether or not you can handle the distractions. Because if you can handle the distractions now, then you're going to be able to build yourself up in a certain way. But the devil wants you distracted and off your purpose. And the only way that the devil is going to keep you in temptation and distracted is if you give someone something to have over you. Well, what exactly does that look like? What does that look like in the power dynamic of the relationship? Well, it takes actually having resources. It takes actually having internal stability and strength. It takes being able to have a innocence about you where you're still pure. You're still pure, but you're also willing to get your hands dirty. It's the kind of mentality in which you operate from a place that is neither necessarily good nor evil, but neutral and stoic. Until things are acted upon you, then you choose certain things. And of course, I'm not going to advocate here for evil, but I'm a firm believer, and I've seen this happen continually in my life, specifically over the last year since women started to first approach me. The first time I had women approach me was in October last year. And there were women coming to my door with bottles of wine. Now, at this time, I was already like 5-6 months into retention, semen retention, that is, for anybody that is not familiar with this channel. And I had already been like cutting off any kind of drugs or any kind of alcohol for quite some time as well. And they pretty much offered themselves one at a time. And I continued to say no, that I'm working, because I was working. And I just kept shutting the door, opening the door, shutting the door. And that was the first time that had ever happened, where women were approaching me wanting to initiate certain things. And now it's getting to the point to where you almost can't even go out or anything like that without some woman trying to like get in your way for her to, like, for you to talk to her or whatever. And don't get me wrong, it's nice to be in that kind of position because at least you know that you're doing something right. And I'm a firm believer that if you continue to make the right decisions, you're going to naturally not go wrong. For example, if I follow Christ, I don't see how I can actually go a wrong way. I can't tell you how many times in life where I felt like I was doing something wrong and I was angry at myself, or I was just frustrated with how I handled the situation or whatever. And then maybe a few days later or a week later or even a couple months later, in retrospect, I realized like, oh, there was actually a purpose for that mistake. And that mistake actually really wasn't a mistake. It was actually something that gave my life a certain kind of stroke on the paintbrush, or a stroke on the canvas, something different. So I was using this different kind of form of technical life experience without even realizing it. And that's exactly what is going to have happen in your life as a man. If you can get to the point to where you have enough inner stability and you take care of yourself, you because this is ultimately what the video is about. It's referencing the comment that I saw today. It's that of course we need to focus on ourselves. But I'm also going to let you know what's going to happen when you do focus on yourself, because a lot of the times men don't want to put in the work because they don't really know if like the thing that's going to want to have happen is actually going to happen. I'm here to tell you, I'm living proof that you can actually have what you want to have happen if you just continue to just put your nose down and stick to the grind. Stay to the gym, meditate, make sure you're doing what needs to be done each day. Make sure that you're not giving your attention to anyone unnecessarily. For example, I was at the coffee shop the other day and I heard this woman talking about her male friends in line. She was talking about her male friends and their love languages with her male friends and how she's just super touchy-feely with her male friends. That shit would not fly with me. And the guy that she was with was like, you could tell it bothered him, but he didn't say it. He was just like, oh, yeah, I'm glad you have friends that you can be that way with. You could see that he was just not about it. He was just not about it. And she just, was off in her own world. And that's a sign of a weak frame as a man. That's a sign of a weak frame. And the reason being is because you're letting, like, what is she doing? Is she cuddling with these guys that are her male friends? Like, what do you mean physical touch? Like, how far do you go with these male friends? Any time a woman has male friends, gentlemen, don't take her seriously, man. Don't take her seriously. I'm not saying you can't talk to women or women can't talk to men as just people, because that would be ludicrous, right? Like, of course you can talk to them as if they're a person, because they are a person. And that brings me to another point is you just need to see women as people first. Like, sincerely, desexualize your brain, desexualize your mind in order to see the woman as just a person that's just trying to live and survive just as much as anyone else in this world. And yeah, you know what? If she starts to make certain decisions and does certain kind of behaviors that make you want to cancel your relationship or whatever kind of relationship you have with her, then you are fully capable and acceptable to do that. You do not have to put up with a woman that is treating you like just some other guy because she just wants all of the male validation that she can. That's just not going to be how we do things over here. We don't do that. Like, when I'm going to be in a long-term relationship with a woman and we have a family, let's say, hypothetically speaking, why would I ever need anybody else's validation apart from hers? And it's not even I don't even need her validation. It's just like, why would I want anyone else's attention apart from hers or my family's? Like, why would I need anybody else's? I wouldn't. And that's exactly how I genuinely believe, need to treat ourselves in our relationships nowadays in order to get to the place where we need to go so that we can actually have the way family is meant to be and the way God intended it to be so. But to be honest, guys, these women out here, most of them, even the ones that are approaching me, it's like they always want something. They're always trying to get something. And I've found that it's actually more natural for women to approach me. Like I feel more natural for a woman to approach me than to me approach a woman. And I'm not saying you can't approach women or anything like that, but I'm saying that when women have approached me and when we've actually had a conversation, I felt way more natural. And it made me question whether or not men should actually be the ones to approach or like ask out on dates or whatever. And I genuinely think also that whoever asks out on the date, like whoever asks the person out, is the one that needs to pay for the first date. And you can figure it out after that. But I think as men we should be paying for the first date if we're the one asking out. But if she's the one asking, then yeah, like she should be the one to pay. Why not? And something that you can say to her if she starts playing games and such, let's say this, if she starts playing games or whatever, something you can say to her is, you know, if you want to keep looking at me like that, you're going to have to take me out on a date. And that way, what are you doing? You're kind of teasing her playfully, but you're also setting a standard and a boundary. Because we don't play games over here. We're going to be straight up, we're going to mean what we say, and we're going to just go for it. We're not going to like filly diddle daddle around. We're not going to be playing those kind of games. We're just not that kind of person. But all in all, I think what I want to really hit home in this message for you guys is to make sure that you're just continuing to work on yourself so that way when the time comes, these women do not have anything over you. And I'm not saying this to be like a control freak or anything like that. I'm not saying this to be like we need to control. It's more just so that we can protect ourselves and our own resources down the line. So I hope this message was useful and insightful, and peace be with you. Till next time.